So sometimes it's good to go into another language to try and demonstrate a particular problem. This kind of came up in the last discussion when I was talking about variables, and you'll notice here that this variable is called A and it's assigned a literal 5. This variable is called B and it's assigned a literal C, character string C. We basically say num1 is A, num2 is B, and then we print them. Now, when we run this thing, you guys know enough Python now that your instincts are probably thinking, so what, Grant? I mean, these numbers are probably not the best defined numbers, but variables, but you know, that's exactly what you'd expect to happen, right? Oh, come on, get up again. I assigned one bucket a 5, another bucket C, and then I assigned these guys those values, and of course I went print. Watch what happens when I go to a slightly different language now. Let's zoom in a little bit. So this is a language Java. And when you guys eventually finish this course, assuming you haven't decided to run off and maybe, I don't know, take up cooking or something, you're going to want to start learning other languages besides Python. And in fact, I know that some of you are going to probably be going more to sort of the C# land as well. But Java definitely is a language that you're going to want to at least have a passing familiarity with. We use it quite a bit in our world. Now, a couple things I want you to notice when I compare this with the way I wrote the Python program. Let's dismiss you and get the Python program up and move it over. So these two kind of have the same path, right? They basically, here's two variables, here's two variables, the assignments, and then this is just a goofy way of this is Python, Java's goofy way of saying print. Okay, so that's what that is. And then this is their way of doing documentation, and I really don't want to explain the rest of this particular thing. I think there's enough. You can imagine it's creating a program called main, and main is going to basically print. Now watch what happens when we run it, and although I did actually run it, but let's run it again just for giggles. So I run it again, and this is a great site, by the way. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but REPL IT is how I'd say it, because REPL IT also gives you the ability to check out other languages too. And then, for example, in this case, I went off to the interwebs and I grabbed a Java program that was simple enough that I could paste here and then run it. So it's kind of like Python Anywhere, except it's working, and it actually has other languages in there. All right, so anyway, so that's enough of that. So notice that what this guy does is when it prints 53 and 99. Well, why is that? Couple things, because when I ran it, you'll remember it basically said 5 and C. So notice how strong Java is in insisting that you have to define what this is first. You have to define that A is a character. It's not taking the assignment, the data type from what you're feeding it in. You're saying this is a character, A, and then you're giving it characters, right? In this case, this guy doesn't know what A is until you've actually given it the assignment. Same deal with the int here, right? These two variables are int. So what in the world is 53 and 99? Let's run this again, because I threw away my memory. So remember now, when you run these things, they sit in memory. I can actually ask, well, what is num1? And it's going to say num1 is 5. But remember, there's also the ability for me to go and say, well, what is the ord of num1? It's 53. Now, the ord returns the ASCII value of the character 5, which I talked about in a previous example. So if I go num2, which is C, what is the ASCII value of num2? And it's 99. So what happened here in Java is it took the character string 5, converted it to an ASCII value, and that number, well, let me try that again. Actually, it stored the string 5. So now that's the string 5. And then as it gets assigned into this number, which is an integer, it gets converted, which again, if you're a new programmer, is a little mysterious, right? It's a little mysterious. Now, my Java is very rusty, so I'm not sure I'm going to go much further into this explanation, but imagine if somehow it didn't cleanly translate. Then you're going to actually have a problem. So that is why, long story short, I get you guys to code all of your Python code with an input, a processing, and an output section, right? Because I want you guys getting into the feel in a programming world of having your variables defined with some thought as to what they actually are, data types. Then I want you to use them in a processing section, and then I want your print statements to be very, very, very simple. Because although Python is gifted us with a nice little print function and a pretty easy way, not all languages are going to be like that. So I want you to have basically this concept of very clean, smooth print statements. All right, that was it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is basically how to break your programs and learn from those breakings. All right.